So a lot of people have been asking me, how can I be so fluent and confident while I'm speaking English or German? I want to make a much more detailed video all about this topic, but I don't have much time now, so I'm gonna try making it brief and condensed as much as possible. How can I speak? It's an easy question, and many people imagine the answer to be much more complicated, but it's not. Actually, the answer is easier. You won't speak, then you have to speak. It's a rule. There is no other way to be a fluent speaker except to be a speaker in the first place. Language learning is divided into four main sections. Each section is a skill you need to practice so you can use the language you're learning in a suitable way. These four sections are reading, listening, writing, and speaking. Reading and listening are input skills. That means you're absorbing information and implanting them deep down in your brain. Writing and speaking are output skills. That means you want to extract information out of your head and offer them in various shapes, either in combined sounds or a pile of paperwork. You're transforming the essence of the information from nonsensible subjects into a sensible matter that could be observed by others. The real question here should be, why is it much easier to learn or to master input skills way before output skills? The answer is fear. Fear of being judged or criticized. Fear of mistakes. Fear of failure. Fear of taking much time to put ourselves out there. Fear is what makes output skills look impossible. Output skills are the exposure. They are what people can see or deal with of your language learning process. When you tell your friends you're learning a new language, they immediately ask you to speak. They don't ask you to listen or to read because simply they cannot observe what's going on in your brain while you are putting things in. It's much more accessible for people to measure what they can observe or feel. So we make sure the exposure looks perfect. We don't want to be judged or criticized or misunderstood. Nobody likes to seem vulnerable in front of others. So we avoid getting there. We think it's better that way. Nobody sees our exposure, so it's safe and solid. But if you keep it inside, if you insist to hide it, it's gonna shrink forever. It's not an exposure anymore because it's invisible. So my very first advice would be, don't be scared. It's okay to get your exposure out, to put it in the wind. It's okay to be vulnerable. That's how we get better. We get stronger. Remind yourself always that you are still learning. Also that people know you're a learner, not a master. It seems at first like everybody's gonna grant you weird looks or laugh at you, but in fact, it's more likely that people are going to be shocked with your abilities. It's more likely to be well validated by non-native speakers and well advised by native ones. Remind yourself it's not the end of the world if someone is mocking or disrespecting you. There are good and bad people everywhere. That's the deal. You need to understand that repressing fear is not some kind of a magic spell. It's a habit that needs time to be created. You need to practice the art of ignorance. Then it will be a lot easier for you to expose yourself to others. Making mistakes is very important in language learning. If you're not making mistakes, then you need to know that you're not trying enough and you're not learning enough. Mistakes show you your weakness points, where you should rebuild stuff, or what materials you should use for the operation. Native speakers make a lot of mistakes. You can obviously notice that they don't adhere to grammars in many cases. They choose simple vocabs or neglect rules, so they can make talks lighter, swifter, but somehow more valuable and embracing. The main purpose of any language is to communicate, not to complicate. Humans have invented languages to make life easy, to make living in a group possible. We should allow ourselves to hold many perspectives, to see things in different ways, to be flexible and reachable. That's why people use common languages or dialects in their daily life connections. That's how dialects were born, by making mistakes. Actually, if you want to follow the historical line of any current living language, you would probably notice that it has been defected from a major ancestor. This defection, in many cases, was a result of consecutive distortions or diversions, emanating one by one to end up generating a whole new language. Communicate, not complicate. As long as you've made your point, as long as you've made an impression, as long as you've been understood, you are already there. Writing might be easier than speaking. While you're writing a message or an email or posting on social media, you have time to correct mistakes or to restructure some phrases. It's like you're using your phone or your paper or whatever as a second brain to re-editing or reshaping your ideas so they look more pleasing to the eye. Speaking is more direct. It needs to be fast and spontaneous. No enough time to re-edit or change stuff. That's why speaking might be the last skill between all four skills that we could master or be fluent at. Because of fear, also, it's very direct, so we don't have the enough amount of time to extract words and make suitable connections between them. Now, after we saw why it's hard to speak, I can give you now some piece of advice based on my personal experience. Anything you do to improve your input will automatically be reflected in your output. Again, it's not a replacement, but the four skills are related at some point. So if you're working hard on one direction, you'll find yourself making some progress on the other one. How I improve my input. That depends on what type of a person you are. The things you like, the things you hate. If you like reading, then it's very useful to read your favorite novels or books in the language you're learning. I like to listen, so I listen a lot to English and German podcasts, news, and songs. And it's very essential here not forcing yourself to do stuff. Choose things you like to do and include them in your life. Don't read or listen to things you're not interested in. The language that you're learning is gonna be a part of your life, a part of who you are. So be careful how to choose your techniques, how to place them in your brain without rejection. As I said before, putting things in your brain is way easier than getting things out. It needs a lot of effort, energy, and consciousness to dig down in your brain before you can find stuff and pull them out. When you want to say something, you tend to extract different words and make specific connections between them. And that's for sure is time consuming and exhausting to your brain. It's faster and easier to extract pre-prepared sentences composed of connected words. So instead of forcing my brain to search for suitable words and make connections between them, I force it to search for pre-saved phrases. And all I need to do now is to make connections between phrases. That's why I speak fluently. My brain works to connect long sentences instead of building them from scratch, because they are already there. This technique I developed all by myself when I started to learn chunks. Chunks are long expressions used in particular situations or social occasions. They differ from language to another, so they may not make any sense if you translate them into your native language, but they still have a precise meaning in some other languages. When I realized the power of chunks, how could I easily take them out and apply them on life situations? I started to develop this technique so it could reach not only metaphors or chunks, but any frequent phrase that could help me to speed up my speaking and to connect thoughts and ideas faster. Let's take an example in German. If I want to say people are pissing me off in German, it's gonna take a lot of time to shape the idea, to choose suitable words, and finally to make attachments. I want all these words: gehen, Leute, nerven, mir. I already know the meaning of each word, but they are basic words in German, but it's quite hard to build something meaningful out of these blocks. I need glue, so I have already glued these words together and formed a meaningful expression I can use when people piss me off. Die Leute gehen mir auf die Nerven. Now, let's say I'm pissed off anything else. Let's say I'm pissed off my friend. All I need now is to make some little changes in the last expression to tell others that I'm angry of my friend. Mein Freund geht mir auf die Nerven. Again, it's easier and less time-consuming to edit a pre-existed phrase than to create a new phrase from scratch. That's the main technique I use to speak German or English. Of course, it took years to accumulate phrases, but it was very amusing and exciting part of my learning process. People think we learn languages to speak, but actually it's the right opposite. We speak to learn languages. I couldn't be able to understand how to use the present perfect tense in English till I spoke with it. It was such a hard concept when we were taught English at school. It seemed tricky and irrational. But when I started speaking English 9 years ago, I figured it all out. Everything finally made sense to me. Speaking with a new language gives you the opportunity to live in somebody else's head. You seem like you are upgrading your existence, like you are experiencing life with a totally different perspective. It's like you have found another version of yourself, a better version of yourself. Now, the recurrent question I see everywhere is who I should speak with. That depends on how much you've included the new language in your life. Where, when, and why you are using this language. Do you use it when you talk to family members? Do you use it for working or to study? Are you learning it to explore some other cultures or to meet new people? You get to decide what parts of your life can you include the new language within. I've reached some point in my English learning process where I can talk to myself in English. I can make the inner discussions or conflicts all in English. I can think and generate ideas in English. That's for me the highest stage or level of adopting any new language, to let it control the generator inside your head. I want to thank you all for listening or for watching this more podcast-like episode. I want to say some few words to thank you all for the support you've been giving me and Hadi since we uploaded our first video. Your nice words, your incentivizes, we'll keep it all in our minds, and we will always think of the great people who are standing behind us. Thank you all for watching, and bis bald. Tschüss.